This is another Coffee One Takes with Mal and Rachel. And today we're going to be talking out of the book of Judges, chapter 3. And what's happening in this chapter is it's explaining a lot of warriors. Well, not a lot, but it's explaining a few warriors. And each warrior has its own story. It's documented the battles that they fought and how they won and kept peace in Israel, and how they were judges over Israel. But Judges 3:31 is the last verse of this chapter, and it introduces this new warrior, and he only gets one verse. So we're going to go ahead and read that and talk a little bit more about what we learned from reading this part of Judges. So Judges 3:31 says, "After Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too saved Israel." And that's all it says. And what we thought was really interesting was that this guy, Shamgar, pretty much just gets an honorable mention. He doesn't get the long story. We don't get the details of how he won these battles and how he kept peace in Israel and how he saved Israel. We don't get all the details of his story. We literally only get one verse that's sort of like a general overview of this guy's story, of this guy's life. And there's really no other story like Shamgar's in the Bible. He gets one verse, but he's still a really important part of the book of Judges, and otherwise he wouldn't be in there. And so we were thinking, okay, well, he only got one verse. That's pretty much just a participation medal. Mm-hmm. That's an honorable mention in the Bible. He didn't get a big platform to speak on. He didn't have the fame that some of these other judges had. And so that prompted a question that we posed to ourselves, and now we want to share with you guys. If we were never given a platform, if we didn't have the fame that some people have, would we still fight? Would we still preach the gospel? And that's really where our conversation is going today. We just want to know, where are our hearts at? Mm-hmm. And then we also want to share that question with you guys. If you were never given the platform, if you were never given the spotlight or the recognition like is possible, would you still fight the good fight? Would you still preach the gospel?
Because I think it's human nature for us to want the recognition, especially if we work hard towards something.
Yeah.
If you put a lot of time and effort into something, let's say, like, just as an example, decorating the church for an event.
Yeah.
Okay, you do that, and then you're like, okay, I hope the pastor or whoever, is gonna give me an honorable mention or say, oh my gosh, this looks so great, in front of people. And sometimes they don't do that. But are you serving for the praise, or are you serving to praise the one who made you?
Yeah. Where is your praise? Is your praise, are you trying to get praise reflected back to yourself, or are you reflecting the praise back to the Father? Because, honestly, Shamgar in Judges 3, it doesn't mention that anything was wrong with the way that he saved Israel. It's not like he was demoted to one verse because he did anything wrong. It doesn't say that anywhere in Judges. So when we were thinking, okay, well, why does this guy only have the last verse? He only has one verse, and it's the last one at that.
Yeah.
The next chapter starts going on to other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, this big story, Shamgar, and then they move on to the next chapter, and all of a sudden we're in Judges 4. And it seems kind of random, but it still is really important. Just like the jobs that are not given a lot of recognition, they're still really important.
Mm-hmm. And we also, it says that he struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. And we didn't know what an ox goad was, so we looked it up, and it's pretty much this long stick with like a spearhead on it, and sometimes it had a hook.
Yeah.
And it's usually up to like 10 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy is literally slinging like a small tree around.
Yeah.
And we're like, why did he use this? Like, what's the purpose? Because that was his weapon of choice, and this was an ox goad was used to herd cattle,
Yeah.
was used to move oxen, to direct them in the right way that they should go.
Yeah.
And we thought that was kind of interesting because as a judge over Israel, they were in charge of leading Israel into the ways that God had showed them, the
Yeah.
ways that God was directing
The
them
peace.
as how they should live,
Yeah.
because they're already in the promised land and they're all settled around each other, but he used an ox goad and that was his signature, so to speak.
Mhm.
So what if you're given a task, a really important dream, and it's from God, but you're not supposed to be in the spotlight?
Yeah.
Because I don't think Shamgar thought he would ever be in the spotlight. There may be judges that that never made it to the Bible, but he did. This guy made it. He had one verse.
At least he had one verse.
Yeah.
And
he took this task and he took the responsibility that God had called him. And, he saved Israel
yeah.
along with all the other judges, So he had such an important role to play, even if it was one verse. Who wouldn't want to be in the Bible, even if you had one verse? I know I would.
What if you're training future leaders? What if you're training teams that are going to work in the future and they're going to shape a generation?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not out of reality
Yeah.
for us. That's not something that's impossible for us. It's not something that's impossible for the Sunday school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's impossible for those praying and warring for your church. It's not impossible for you guys. It's not impossible for us. That can be our reality, that we're training leaders, that we are the leaders of the future generation. We're going to shape a generation. We're going to shape the world. That's not impossible. So what if you're training these people and you're just not going to get the spotlight?
Yeah.
Does that make your work any less valid? I don't think so. I think it's still just as important, if not even more important, because you're there.
Yeah, and you play such a crucial role in that person's life and making them what they're supposed to be and helping them walk in their potential and go into that destiny that God has called them to. How many teachers do we know that, if not for them, we wouldn't be where we are today?
Yeah.
And they don't receive the recognition usually. A lot of times they don't, a lot of times we lose contact with them, you move or so, and they lose that recognition because, yes, I'm proud of them for making such an impact in my life, but I don't see them anymore.
It's the mentors that make the leaders.
Exactly.
And so a lot of times, sometimes mentors don't get the recognition in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get a thank you and it's sincere and it's genuine, but they don't get a spotlight.
Yeah.
They don't get the platform. The person that they raised up, they get the platform and they preach the gospel and they change lives through the Spirit and they, people come to know Jesus through them. But if we look back, who introduced that leader to Jesus? It's the mentor.
Yeah.
And so our last question that we want to pose to everybody is, I'm going to let Rachel take that and close this out, but this is an important concept to kind of keep in our hearts throughout the week, as we're teaching Sunday school classes, as we're mentoring other Christians, as we're fellowshipping with others of like faith. It's important for us to remember that even the sacrifices that go unnoticed, God notices.
Yeah. So if you were only in the background and if people never saw all that you sacrificed, would you still serve wholeheartedly for the cause of Christ? That's a big question.
It takes thought.
Yeah. And, once you think about it, our answer should always be yes, because we aren't doing it for the praise. If anything, the praise that we receive should be directed back to God. Now, I'm not saying, it's all God, but He gifted you with those talents. He gifted you with the ability to do the things that, that you do. And So, that's just a question for you guys to ponder. Would you still serve wholeheartedly?
Yeah, think about it. And really, it's easy for... It's easy for me personally to just answer, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But would I really? You know, if there was absolutely no platform, if there was no spotlight, if there was no recognition, what if there was no thank you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, would I still keep my eyes focused on the cause, and that is Christ and the gospel, and just preaching the simple gospel that Jesus loves you, he'll never not love you, and he wants to have a relationship with you. And really it's about just making sure that our hearts are in the right place even without the platform.
Yeah. And just with the Shamgar character, Judges would not be complete if he wasn't in it. Like, there's a reason that he's in it. There's a reason that God's placed you in people's lives to help them grow. And then in return, you know, they might help you grow too, you know. So we just hope that you guys maybe answer the question in the comments below. So we thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.